All right. I can't remember if I actually introduced myself. I'm Reverend Mary Murray Shelton. I'm the community spiritual leader here at Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. And this morning, we have the music of Daniel Nema. Daniel is from Orange County in Southern California, and he has sold quite a few, over 100,000 CDs, and had music played in all sorts of venues and television programs all over the place. And we enjoy Daniel. So please stand and join us for the morning song. This is one we've sung with him before, so you'll probably remember it as soon as you hear it. It's easy.
Good morning, Golden Gate. It's Daniel Nahmad. Ready to sing something with me?
Sure.
While you admire the lava lamp over my shoulder that my boy just bought me as a present with money that he earned. Oh my God. Here we go. A song called Witness. This day is a witness to my sacred purpose, to all that I'm meant to be. Sing it again. This day is a witness to my sacred purpose, to all that I'm meant to be. Letting it in, letting it flow, letting it go where it will go, letting the power of your presence show the way, letting it in, letting you know, I'm letting you lead, that I might follow, being a witness to your presence every day. This soul is a witness. Here we go. This soul is a witness to my holy purpose, to all that I'm born to be. Again. This soul is a witness to my holy purpose, to all that I'm born to be. Letting it in, letting it in, letting it flow, letting it go where it will go, letting the power of your presence show the way, letting it in, letting you know, I'm letting you lead, that I might follow, being a witness to your presence every day. This life is a witness to my rightful purpose, to all that I've come to be. One more time. This life is a witness to my rightful purpose, to all that I've come to be. And I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love for all my life. Sing it again. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love for all my life. Again. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love for all my life. One last time. Nice
Yeah.
job. Good morning.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, so now is the time to go ahead and silence your cell phone so that it won't interrupt anything in the service this morning as we prepare to center ourselves to receive everything Spirit has for us today. And so I'm inviting this morning's prayer practitioner, Frank Lang, up to pray us in. Come on up, Frank.
Please join me in affirmative prayer. Take a couple deep breaths and find your center. Happy place, if you will. We all have one. I begin this prayer by speaking the truth, and the truth is that there is only God, and all of this is it, right where we are. Full, whole, perfect, complete. The infinite one, the eternal now, the all and everything. Fullness, light, life, and love. These are the qualities of God that fill this room right now where I am. And I open my heart, I open my mind to the divine intelligence, and I let God speak through me. I know God by the radiance of my heart, the lightening of my mind, and the fullness of my navel, body, spirit, intelligence. It is all perfectly woven, perfectly delivered from the fullness of God, from the self-givingness, the generosity, and the goodness of Spirit. For God is good. And truly God is our good, and that goodness flows to us right now through these words, through this moment, through every mind, body, fiber, fluid, motion, muscle, everything that we are vibrates, radiates with the Spirit of God right now, and that flows through this room and out into all of our relations and into the world around us, bringing peace, fullness, health, happiness, hope, life, light, and love. Those are the qualities that I hold for each and every one of us here, and I call forward for each and all of us a change in consciousness, a purging of discernment so that we are able to see, recognize, and know that we are always touched, always guided, always filled with the goodness of God, and that flows through us now, fills this room, and makes this service holy, perfect, complete, already done in the mind of God and soon to be delivered, just as it is, holy, happy, full, complete. So I give thanks. I give thanks for the answered prayer, and I turn this word over to the law. Love is what gives, the law is what accomplishes. That is the quality of God by which I know that these words are heard, spoken, taken, and made true. So I turn my word over to the law, I give thanks, and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, Frank.
There's one power, invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power, indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angel's wings or heaven's door, but whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. We speak so many languages, different clothing, different colors, different names. But different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. And we'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, or Jesus or Lord. Call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem, or Heaven's Door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, or it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth, or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, yeah. It's the moment of creation. It's an everlasting peace. It's the freedom of forgiveness. It's the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby. The serenity of sleep. It's the anger we abandon, for it's love that's most deep. It's one power. Whoa. What we are is It's the power of the love that lives forever in you and me. It's the power of the love in you and me.
Gosh, I've heard that song so many times, and for some reason this morning, it really got in. Do you know? I don't know if it's because there are fewer of us in the room or I was just in that place. Oh, and welcome to those of you who have swum in since we started. Nice to see you and welcome. Rising higher and growing deeper is our theme for this year, and now that we're in the month of February, we're also claiming radical interconnection. We're going to be looking this month as how the practices of mindfulness and interconnection, interbeing, or personal relationships are connected to one another most skillfully. That everything that exists because everything else that exists. So we are not only interdependent, which is kind of what I'm talking about this morning, but also intra-dependent. And I'll explain more about that in a little while, but just consider the example that our bodies are actually right now shared and occupied with millions of other organisms. And the microbes that are necessary for us to actually live is part of that. That symbiotic relationship is absolutely necessary to us. So we're going to actually take a detour from that idea of a self-made person, which actually is a myth, and kind of turn to this intricate web of interrelations without which we would not survive. So I want to tell a little story about trying to be independent, because today we're talking about the magic of interdependence, or intradependence even. So this young mother was quite concerned about her 5-year-old son, Timmy, walking to school by himself pretty much every day, and he didn't want his mother to walk with him, and she wanted to give him as much independence as possible, but still keep him safe. So she was discussing this over coffee with a good friend of hers, and her neighbor offered to follow him to school in the mornings when she was taking her little toddler for a walk. She thought, if she was behind him every day, he probably wouldn't even notice it. And so the relieved mother agreed. And the next day, the neighbor and her little girl took their walk behind Timmy as he walked to school with another neighbor boy. And they did that for a whole week. And on the last of the week, as the boys walked and chatted, Timmy's little friend noticed the same lady had been walking behind them all week long. So he asked Timmy, "Who is that lady following us to school every day? Do you know her?" Timmy said, "Yeah, I know who she is." His friend said, "Well, who is she?" He said, "That's just Shirley Goodnest and her baby, Marcy." Shirley Goodnest? Who is that, and why is she following us? "Well," Timmy explained, "my mom worries about me, so every night we say the 23rd Psalm, and it says, 'Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life,' so I guess I'll just have to get used to it." Shirley Goodnest, we're happy to have her with us this morning. Yeah, in the recognition that that process of becoming independent is just one step in the stage of development. When we come into the world, we have to be dependent because we're born immature. We're not born like animals who just struggle to stand up and then they're ready to nurse and move on. We're underdeveloped because that's the only way our mothers will be able to give birth to us. So we really are very dependent, very weak, very tiny at the beginning. We begin with that necessary dependence that allows us to learn, to pay attention, to model our behavior on that of others, to begin to recognize the difference between me and mom, or me and somebody else, or this place or another place, to learn how to walk, to learn how to speak, to learn how to get the things that I want and need, how to let people know when I'm uncomfortable or when I'm hungry or when I'm in pain. So we have this dependence as a necessary but temporary protected state. It's our time of learning and gathering information together. And as we're learning, we have parents who are kind of like spotters to make sure that we don't trip over the one thing in the middle of the steps or hurt ourselves with a stove or pull something over onto ourselves as our homes are baby-proofed. So if you have kids, you probably remember going through these stages where, oops, now they're doing this. We got to change the house so they're safe in that situation. So they're learning through being with and practicing. Interesting, Carl Sagan said once, "We live in a society exquisitely dependent on science and technology, in which hardly anyone knows anything about science and technology. It's only those who are scientists and mathematicians and technologists who understand all of those things, and yet we benefit from them, even as we're dependent on them." When we are getting ready to leave the nest, we have a long period where we're trying to assert our independence. Usually the real insistence on asserting our independence comes around age 2, when the kids start to say no a lot. And I'd like to tell the story of being on the jungle gym thing with my grandson when he was about 2. And he was unsteady on his feet. Maybe he was a little younger than that. And the kids that were running around were not necessarily mindful of this little tyke who was tottering up these ramps and stuff like that. And I was afraid somebody would elbow him and he'd just fly off into the sawdust. So I was kind of hovering, and I was following him up this ramp on this jungle gym thing. And he turned around, brought himself up to his full height. He turned around and he looked at me and he said, "No, Nana." Now that was a real clear assertion of independence. I'm doing this. I am doing this myself on my own. So in the struggle for independence, or the leaning into our independence, starts pretty early, way before we're actually ready to be independent. But we're beginning to make our own decisions. Like this little kid who's decided to share his ice cream. That's a decision. He's choosing to share. We don't know if she asked for it or not, but if she did, he said yes. He gave her a lick of his ice cream. Now, I used to do that as a kid. Nowadays, parents prevent kids from doing that kind of stuff if they see it. Nobody saw us, but nobody was worried about it either. So we gave each other bites of things and licks of things that we were eating. Anybody do that out here when you were a little kid? Yeah? So that's our time that we explore, we discover, we're curious about everything. We're learning to create. We're learning to decide. We're able to go ahead and make our own mistakes. And this process continues through our lives, but it's especially intense during these years when we're reaching from the age 2 until we are actually out of the nest and leaving home. Emerson said, "It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude." That's kind of some of what we're going for in our lives. We want to become independent enough that we're able to know what we think and believe and to stand in that and in those principles, even if the world around us doesn't agree with us. And one of the things that we want to grow toward is interdependence. That is another step in our spiritual maturity, to recognize that we do all depend on each other, that something one person does may affect so many down the line that it affects us, even if we don't know that person, we're not directly connected to them. When we see this group in The Wizard of Oz, they work together so that each of them can get what it is that they're looking for, what it is that they need. They have the help of the others. And because they have that support, they're stronger to stand in what they want, to ask for it, because they're interdependent with one another. They're helping each other to reach their goals. Thomas Merton said the whole idea of compassion is based on a keen awareness of the interdependence of all these living beings, which are all part of one another and all involved in one another. When we recognize that, then we can sometimes make space for other people's shortness of vision or weakness or errors. And another story I've told you is the story of running into the bed frame in the garage and having it leave 2 deep scratches on the hood of my car. This was in Southern California. We had propped an extra bed frame up against the wall because we weren't needing it. And we always paid attention pulling into the garage so we wouldn't bump it. But this time, I just wasn't quite fully present. And not only did I bump it, but it fell over and left 2 big scratches on the hood of my relatively new car. And I was so upset with myself. I was so angry and frustrated that I had done that. And that afternoon, my 16-year-old son came in with his eyes like this, and he said, "Mom, I just scratched the car." And I said, "No, honey, that was me. I did that earlier today when I ran into the bed frame." He said, "No, I ran into the bed frame too and scratched the car." Now we had 4 scratches in the hood of the car. And I said, "You know, Luke, If I hadn't done this earlier today, you would be in so much trouble. But because I already did it and I've been so upset with me, I can hardly turn around and be that upset with you because we made the same mistake. Greater compassion in the recognition of our similarity. See, I would have seen him as being careless with my car had he done that and I hadn't. So it's like the universe was preparing me to not, behead him over this mistake that he had made. Can you relate to that? We're more compassionate with people who make mistakes similar to mistakes that we have made because we understand what that's like, or not even mistakes, experiences in their lives. Bless you. Before my former husband and I were divorced, I had a pretty narrow view of people who got divorced. Afterwards, it's amazing how much more I understood. So when we recognize that we are interconnected with each other, we're more likely to extend compassion to somebody else who's had a similar experience. These folks all needed something. And although Dorothy set off on her own, I think that as things went on, she was very glad she had these three with her, and each one of them helped in his own way at a certain point in the process. Dalai Lama said that interdependence is a fundamental law of nature. For some reason, we human beings need to learn that. He says, even tiny insects survive by mutual cooperation based on innate recognition of their interconnectedness. It is because our own human experience is so dependent on the help of others that our need for love lies at the very foundation of our existence. Therefore, we need a genuine sense of responsibility and sincere concern for the welfare of others. It's difficult for us sometimes to stretch into that compassion when we don't have a similar experience, to judge somebody else. Have you ever seen one of those pictures of some dog that's been abandoned somewhere and it's all matted and dirty and its hair has grown and just gotten so filthy and nasty, and somebody takes it to a shelter or adopts it or whatever they do, and they show you what happens when this dog gets trimmed and washed and brushed and fed and treated with love, and you wouldn't recognize the dog. The transformation is so enormous. But that dog, that beautiful dog, was always under all that mess. It was always there. It just wasn't visible, but it was present. And this same thing is true of us. When we have been through a lot, when we look bad, when we've been in a bad situation, we may be scary to other people. They may not want to have anything to do with us. But if we could recognize that those same people, they are just like anybody else. Once they have a chance to get cleaned up and fed and washed and clothed and trimmed, they look great. You would not be able to tell them apart from anybody else, yes? We've seen this kind of thing. So it's the power of seeing through the appearance. And I'm not just talking about physical stuff. I'm also talking about negative characteristics that we have a hard time seeing through because we evaluate them as possibly untrustworthy or dangerous, and we could be right about that, but at the same time, there's something else in that person. There may be just a tiny seed of it as far as they know anymore, if they even believe that's there, but it's in there. It's still there. Peter Senge said, the further human society drifts away from nature, the less we understand interdependence. Because there are lessons in nature showing us all the time that we rely on each other. Now, from a science of mind perspective, we say God is all there is, that creation is of the one, comes out of the one, and that means that everything in creation is imbued with the characteristics of God, those that look great, those that don't look so shiny and new, and those who behave badly, as well as those of us who are trying to learn how to be our best selves as much of the time as we can. So when we're interdependent, we're connected and our selves become bigger due to the synergy of those interrelationships. So that is our ultimate truth, that we're interconnected, we're actually one, like the drop and the river or the drop and the ocean are one. And that we must both give and receive in that relationship in order for it to flow and be successful. So we have to participate in life, and we also have to allow life to support us. That when we ask for help, some of the cred gets trimmed off of us that maybe we have taken on in the midst of living and the various traumas that, nobody escapes without some of those. Is this making sense, what I'm saying? Yes? You following me here? Ernest Holmes, our founder, in his book, Can We Talk to God?, is quoted as saying, "We would defeat the very purpose of life should we live in a continuous state of meditation or prayer, oblivious to the objective world. The practical values of spiritual perception remain latent until they're objectified. In other words, any attempt to isolate oneself from the world of action is contrary to the order of the universe and therefore futile." Essentially what he's saying is we have a responsibility to be engaged with the world. And that's the challenge that Emerson talks about, to be engaged with the world and not get lost in it, to be in the world but not of it. As St. Paul said, that's the trick, that as we are growing in our learning, in our experimentation, our curiosity, we are called to stand in the principles that we believe in, to be examples of those to ourselves, to our families, to our world. And so, Haile Selassie said, throughout history, it has been the inaction of those who could have acted, the indifference of those who should have known better, the silence of the voice of justice when it mattered most, that has made it possible for evil to triumph. All that requires, as somebody said, for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. So we are called by our own faith to stand alone or to stand with others who hold to certain principles, to be visible, to speak up. Rebecca Adamson refers to the native traditions, the indigenous traditions of the world, and she says, the indigenous understanding has its basis of spirituality in a recognition of the interconnectedness and interdependence of all living things, not just people, all living things, not just animals. That means plants, that means the earth. A holistic and balanced view of the world. She says, all things are bound together, all things connect. What happens to the earth happens to the children of the earth. Humankind has not woven the web of life, but we are one thread. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. This is the recognition that we have a responsibility not only to other people, but to the other creatures and to the earth itself. We have a responsibility as a part of that whole. And then I want to speak a little bit about intradependence. Now, this is not codependence, where one is giving up themselves to try and control the life or the problems of the other one, but rather is a recognition that we exist because of each other. In the African tradition, it's called Ubuntu. I am because we are, or I am because you are. In other words, without all of us, exactly as we are, I would not be who I am. I might not be at all. Our existence is utterly dependent on the planet, on the things that grow on the planet, on the animals, and on each other. There is a delicate balance in all of this, and we are connected to all of it. Connected to all of it. So interdependence, in this image, this is a community garden. So the adults are teaching the children about the cultivation of food and the care of those plants and the earth, and how all of it is interconnected, that the earth is part of this intradependence, just as the children are intradependent on the adults that they're learning from. And the adults may be learning from those children at the same time, because they can often see things more clearly than we adults do. This is an interconnectedness of individuals with their social world and with their physical world. Intradependence is what we're trying to grow into and teach in the science of mind, a recognition of something that's even an expansion of the magic of interdependence, where we help each other. But it is a recognition of an even deeper identity that we share together. Paul Theobald, in Teaching the Commons, has an article called Interdependence, but in this he says, the greater the intradependence, the greater the sense of community. Most people are hungry to be loved, to be included, to be a part of, to belong. And this idea of Ubuntu says it is natural to belong. It is necessary to belong, because anyone that we exclude, we're diminishing ourselves. We're diminishing the greatest need that we have by putting those people, those places, those things out of our hearts. We don't always have to approve. We don't always have to make friends with everybody. But Ernest Holmes says something that I love about, the first thing to do is to love everyone. If you have not done this, begin to do so at once. As if it's like, your homework is to write an essay. As if it were something that you could do and be done with, rather than it as a practice that continues throughout our existence. The recognition of our interconnectedness, because we look like we're separate from each other. But that is not necessarily the truth. So we're working with others for the good of all and for the good of the earth. That is our intradependence. It's the truth of who we are. Thich Nhat Hanh says the whole planet is one giant living, breathing cell, with all its parts linked in symbiosis. So even the people I will never meet and don't know, and whose stories I have not heard, I'm connected to them. And they are an important part of my continuing existence. And so I want to make space for them even though I don't know them. I want to be able to stretch my willingness to see compassionately, with greater kindness. And this is really where we are in the world right now. This crisis that appears to be worldwide, where there's all of this difference of opinion and people are very us and them, this is the moment that we're called to respond to with patience, with kindness, with compassion. Thich Nhat Hanh also says, when we free ourselves from the idea of separateness, we then have compassion, we have understanding, and we have the energy to help. So the question really for us this morning is, how will we help? One of the things that we do in our congregation is every month, a small group of GGCSLers go to the San Francisco Marin Food Bank and help pack food for 2 hours. That's something that our congregation participates in. And during those 2 hours, the food that is packed goes out into Marin County, and some of it goes to San Francisco, I'm sure, to distribution centers that are in those neighborhoods where there is food insecurity. Imagine if you're a single mother of 3, or if you're a single dad who works and has a couple of kids but doesn't make enough money to cover everything that needs to be taken care of. Imagine if there were nothing like a food bank to go to, how you would feel, how worried, how desperate, how much would you sacrifice of your own well-being in food and health in order to support your little ones, in order to take care of them? Or what if you're caring for older parents who have physical challenges or senility challenges, and there's no helpful place to go to support you with that? All of these things that are available to help lift us up are important, not only to the people who are engaging in them, but it affects all of us. Because you could be desperate enough to steal from someone in order to get food for your children. Who are you going to steal from? It could be anyone. You could be desperate enough to hurt someone to try and get the care that you need or the attention that you need to your situation. So when there are services available for people, that takes care of the whole community in some way, not just the ones who are directly receiving the support. Does this make sense, what I'm saying to you? Are you understanding me? So how are we called individually? What do we do for a reasonable amount of time or money or our ability? What do we do to recognize our interdependence and be a source of uplift? Now, maybe our lives are so busy that we can't volunteer and we don't have enough money to give a lot of stuff. Well, we can always go through and donate things that we're not using anymore. But also, even less than that, we can just smile at people or say good morning. How many of you ever attended the summer conference in Asilomar during the years that we went a lot? How many of you have gone? Yeah? That's a reasonable number. So you may have noticed, this always struck me, that as the week progresses at Asilomar, with all Science of Mind people there, and a lot of ministers and practitioners, a lot of people who've taken classes, and a bunch of new people, when we're at Asilomar, we're also sharing the space with raccoons and foxes and deer. And I have walked back from meetings late at night and seen a very large raccoon having communion at a trash can. And it has been my choice to let that raccoon do their thing and go around, not to confront, not to frighten, not to give them any trouble. There are also woodpeckers, which are quite busy sometimes at Asilomar. But one of the things about being at Asilomar is as the week progresses, people relax. They begin to say hello to everybody. They begin to chat with each other, with people they've never met. They begin to open up and be vulnerable and transparent about their experiences and their struggles with life. And by the end of the week, really, it has become a different kind of culture that is established in this interconnectedness. And then we go home. Boy, is that a shock. You walk downtown wherever you live, you start saying hello to everybody, they're going to look at you with dismay, with fear, with suspicion. You know, try to sell me something. What is it you want? What do you need? Some of them might nod at you. Some of them might pretend you're not there. Do you ever notice how people never make eye contact when they're walking around? You have to protect yourself. You never know what somebody might want. I wonder. I know we have to be mindful, but could we smile more? Could we say hello more? Could we give a friendly nod to someone? Could we get familiar with the checker at the grocery store that we see all the time? We don't know about them and how they're doing, but maybe we should. So this invitation that I'm suggesting to us is not a matter of making a huge change in your life. You don't have to sell everything and become peace pilgrim, but maybe we can together wake up just a little bit more, extend kindness just a little bit more, find ways to pass on more of what we don't need anymore, to put it back in circulation for where the need is larger. This is how we enter into that magic of interdependence and intradependence. Experiencing the magic of it begins right where we are. Namaste. Oh, thank you. Right. So let's take this within now. So as we turn within, first, we bring our attention to God, Spirit, infinite intelligence, the creative energy of the universe, the consciousness of expressing and choosing and creating everything that is from itself. This divine presence, which is not limited in any way, not bound by time or space, this one is free to heal the past, free to enlighten the future, free to lift the present, but it does so through us. So right where we are right now, we are expressions of that one, and we are capable of expanding our awareness to include, lovingly expanding to include more and to welcome more good, to expand outward into that oneness so that even those that are distressing to us, we can hold with greater kindness, greater openness, greater love. In this moment, with the courage of all of us together, we are invited to open just a little more right now in this space, just to open in compassion a little bit more to all those around us. And as we do that, we anchor that in our experience, allowing it to form, to begin to form a new pattern within us that is aware of our connectedness, that sees ourselves as connected to everyone at depth, and to see this relationship as holy. What can I give here in consciousness? Extending love and compassion. We are empowered by Spirit to do this and upheld by that creative law of mind and spirit that always says yes. So as I declare this, as I call it forth from myself, that empowering energy of creation flows right into that intention and supports me, reminding me, offering me opportunities, lifting me up. What is true for me is true for everyone in this room, for everyone watching this video right here and right now. So with appreciation for this work in us going on right now, we give thanks. And we let this prayer go to the law to provide the ways, the means, the consciousness, the opportunities that we desire to live through. We release this prayer into the law, which knows how to do that and always says yes. We let it go with great freedom and joy. We let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Yes, please stand and join me for the morning affirmation. As we say together, my life is a result of my consciousness and the consciousness of everyone who has interacted with me. I've never been independent or dependent. I am forever connected to an infinite community. And so it is. You may be seated. Would the ushers please come forward? We are preparing to receive the morning offering. And the morning offering is not only the financial good that you bring to share with Golden Gate, but also your presence, your consciousness, your aliveness. We bless what's being given this morning and also everything that Golden Gate has received in this past week. So please take your gift or just your hands, hold them over your heart as we say this giving affirmation together. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is. Please go ahead.
What kind of world do I want to see? What kind of world do I want to leave to my children's children? Now is the time to make up my mind, yeah. What kind of world is this gonna be? What kind of world will be my legacy to the generations for all humankind? It's time to decide what kind of world. Will it be peaceful? Well, am I? Will it be joyful and kind? Will it be all those things a child so easily describes? Oh yeah. Will everybody have enough? Will we speak in the language of love? Somehow I'm suspecting it's all up to what you and I decide. What kind of world do we want to have? When will we be ready to start giving back to this precious place? For every young face, tell every boy and girl, what kind of world? Will it be peaceful? Well, am I? Will it be joyful and kind? Will it be all those things a child so easily describes? Oh yeah. Will everybody have enough? Will we speak in the language of love? Somehow I'm suspecting it depends on what you and I decide. What kind of world do we want to have? When will we be ready to start being that for this precious place? For every young face, tell every boy and girl, what kind of world? Oh, 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 tell every boy and girl, yeah. What kind of world? Do 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 do, whoa, oh, do 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 do. Thanks.
So, on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, all of us here accept this offering, and we send it out into the world to expand the kindness and the compassion that lives in all of us. And so it is. If anybody is here with us for the very first time this morning, you're going to find back at this information table right behind you, there are all sorts of flyers and Signs of Mind magazines and handouts that are available to take. And there are welcome packets back here. So if you take one of those little envelopes that says welcome on it, take out the blue card inside, fill it out, and give it back to Galen, and she will give you a copy of the book Nourishing Thoughts as our thank you gift for being here this morning, and also as our invitation to you to come back and be with us often in the future. Also, I want to thank everyone who participated in putting things together this morning, and I especially want to draw attention to this wonderful altar for Chinese New Year that Joanna Hughes did this morning. It's really spectacular. Isn't that gorgeous? Thank you, Joe. Oh, and so let's thank everybody also. Give a hand to everybody who helped participate, because I don't want to short anybody on that. All right, it's time. Those of you that have February birthdays, please stand so we can sing you happy birthday, if your birthday is this month. All right, just Selma? Okay, so this is for you. Oh, and Galen. That's right. Galen's is coming up in about a week. Yeah. A week? On Super Bowl Sunday is her birthday. All right, don't sit yet. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Selma and Galen. Happy birthday to you. Thank you. Maybe a wonderful month. My son is having a birthday in just not even a whole week here. This coming Saturday, there will be a men's group gathering at Steve Einhaus's place. Hopefully it won't rain on you that day. From 3 to 5 p.m. plus, he said. So Steve's address in San Rafael is up here on the screen. You're going to gather outside at the fire pit for drumming and then sharing poetry with one another, and then go on from there, whatever comes next. So that is coming up this Saturday. If you have questions, please call Steve, and he will fill you in on any details that you need. The last Sunday of this month, which is the 23rd, Gary Lynn Floyd, one of our video musicians, who also did the concert with Karen Drucker, you might remember, for our 40th anniversary a couple years ago, he's going to be here live. He's driving over from Reno to do the music on that Sunday morning with us on the 23rd, and then we're all going to repair over to the Sunrise Center, which is just down here on Tamalpais, on the other side of the street. And at the Sunrise Center, we're going to have a potluck lunch, and then we're going to have Soul Circle singing with Gary. Is that right? Soul Circle? Song Circle. That's right. The Song Circle will follow the luncheon. So I want to invite you to please sign up for the potluck so we know what you're going to bring. The sign-up sheets are on the activity table. That's this one back here. And the Song Circle, there's a recommended love offering of $20, and we'll collect that money there. So we'll need to either be cash or checks. So that will be at the Sunrise Center on the last Sunday of this month. And we're going to have a really good time with Gary. I'm looking forward to that. Also, how many of you like snacks? Yes? How many of you like snacks on Sunday after the from now through May, one Sunday a month. So it's February, March, April, May. Four Sundays of snacks, one each month. It's pretty manageable. You can sign up for that back on the activity table as well, and we encourage that. Now I'd like to invite our practitioners to surround the room, and the prayer that we're going to do together right now will be a prayer that includes all of us, but also focuses its attention on the plane crashes that happened in the last week or so. The one where all of the ice skaters were killed on that flight that went into the Potomac River, and the medical flight that went down in Philadelphia a couple of days, just yesterday maybe. And we want to enclose those families, those community circles, those groups that knew and loved these people to be held in love. And at the same time, we want to know that these souls fly free and whole, and all is well for them. So this is what we'll be saying our prayer about, and you are all included as we send these good and loving thoughts to all these folks, okay? in this moment, right here. Is with them right now, all complete and perfect forgiveness and uplift. We're deeply grateful to know all of this right now and to let it flow, coming from our hearts to theirs. So I let this prayer go knowing it is done and it is good. With gratitude, I let it be. And so it is. Please stand and join us now for the closing blessing and song. As we say together, I now walk, so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness. For spirit and all people and I are one eternally. And so it is. Closing song.
Well, it's been a pleasure to sing for you again, as always. Hope you've enjoyed the songs. Let's close with a song that I sometimes do with you all for an opening. A song called Swing Wide the Doors. You ready to sing it and mean it? Yes. Deep breath, here we go. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. I'm not holding it in anymore. I'm gonna shout it out loud. I understand now what I'm here for and what this life is about. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. About lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. One more time. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Thanks for singing. Thanks for having me, and have a great week ahead. Bye for now.